fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Christianity hinges on this one thing being true. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, Like Diamonds, back again, Salt Strong Unchurched. This is going to be an awesome one. This is going to be a fascinating one. It's stuff that I'm learning about here and things that honestly I've kind of struggled with. And yes, there is one thing, literally one thing that determines if Christianity is true or not. One thing that literally could make the whole thing fall apart if it wasn't true. Can you guess what it is? It's not what some people think. It's not, about evolution and, did man come from the Big Bang Theory or from apes or was it really Adam and Eve? All that stuff is certainly important. It's not even a specific book of the Bible and it's not some concept. It's literally one thing. If you want to just boil it down to one thing, and it's the resurrection. Did Jesus Christ die? And then 3 days later, did he rise from the dead? Because that's something that only a miracle can happen. And that's something that only God could do if there's a God, right? And that's something that is supernatural. That's something that you can't even make up, right? And the whole time throughout the Bible, all this has been documented by many, many people. This man known as Jesus Christ was telling his disciples and really telling everyone that he was going to die, that he literally called his shots. He said, I'm going to be crucified and I'm going to die, and then I'm going to rise from the dead in 3 days. So everyone knew this. The Romans knew, everyone knew this, and they obviously they were fearful of this. Some thought he was crazy. Some obviously followed him and even died for him. But that was the one thing that he said, everyone will know that I am the Son of God when this happens. So literally, everything really hinges on this one act, right? Because if he's just a normal human being, then he's not the Son of God, right? Jesus Christ is not the person that Christianity claims he is. So this one thing had to happen. And so in this book, Christianity for people who aren't Christians, I've talked about this on a couple of past podcasts, absolutely love the book and highly recommend it, especially if you struggle with some of these concepts of Christianity, like a resurrection, right? We weren't there. That is one that you have to have a lot of faith on. But this book, literally just refutes every possible angle that you could imagine. And it just doesn't do it in one person's opinion. There is a gentleman by the name of J. Warner Wallace. He is one of the most decorated homicide investigators in the entire country. Like, this guy has been on TV. He is one that helps train SWAT teams in investigations and homicide cases. He was kind of famous for this quote that says, as a cop, if you believe everything people tell you, then you never arrest anyone, right? So for him, facts have to be solid. You have to have witnesses who are credible, and you have to have solid evidence that is persuasive and is right. You can't just be making up stuff. And so he actually was getting to the point of retirement, and as an atheist, said that he's going to take on basically his biggest challenge yet as a professional detective. Once again, this guy's been on NBC's Dateline. He's a big name. You can look him up. He's been on Court TV, a big deal in terms of being the expert, like the country's expert on figuring out homicides no one else could figure out. So he literally tries to take on this coldest case of his life, and that is, did Jesus Christ, was the resurrection true? Did he die and come back? That's crazy, right? So this is all a true story. This is all documented. So I mentioned that he went in really as kind of an atheist. He did not really believe the resurrection occurred, which is why he wanted to see why do so many millions of people who call themselves Christians believe this? I got to figure this out. And so this was kind of like his challenge. And so this dude goes in as an atheist, and he comes out something else. I'll tell you here towards the end, and we'll talk about what he found. So let's talk about the things that he really, really dove into. This is a 6 months. So he literally did this every day for 6 months and really dove into everything he could find from, because, even back in the day, they didn't have the internet and stuff, but they still documented things. Obviously, we have the Bible, which is documentation. But that's really just one side of the story. There was another side. And so he went back to every single thing he could find to really figure out the truth. And once again, this is a guy, this Mr. Wallace here, that did not believe it. He went in with, the mindset that Jesus did not die and come back to life, that the resurrection did not happen. So just keep that in frame of mind. So one of the first things that people bring up in other religions that try to tear this kind of idea down about a resurrection is that the disciples stole the body. Now, if you're not familiar with the disciples, Jesus had these 12 disciples. They were, the number one followers or fans, if you want to call them in this day and age. And they were literally willing to die because of what they believed about him. They believed he was the Son of Man. They spent time with him. They were the ones who were going out to other cities and spreading the good word about Jesus Christ and really about, what now is Christianity. And really for their entire belief system, right? Everything that they've been doing, I mean, they dropped their jobs, they left their families behind. Everything they've been doing with Jesus Christ over this time frame really relied on him dying, which is what he said was going to happen, right? Jesus predicted that many times in the Bible, that he was going to die, in fact, be crucified, and that he was going to rise from the dead. So there's certainly a reason for these disciples to want to steal the body, right? So we all have to, here's some of the facts this guy, we all agree upon. Jesus Christ is a real person. That's 100% documented every which way possible. He did get crucified. That's documented every which way possible. And there was a tomb that had a massive stone over it, like a 2-ton stone to cover it up, and it was guarded heavily. All that part has been documented by the Romans. Because on the other side of this whole idea is the Romans, and the entire empire did not want this. I mean, this Christianity and Jesus were a threat to everyone around, because if they did kill how bad would you feel if you're the ones who murdered the Son of God? I mean, right? I mean, they wanted this to be an ordinary man. So they had every reason to make sure that this dude did not rise from the dead, and that no one came in and stole his body, etc. And so putting all that into frame, we got 16, guys who are not heavily armed, right? Or 12 people, these disciples who are not heavily armed. They're obviously scared. They're literally scattered. I mean, as soon as all this happened, the last thing they want to do is say they were a follower of Jesus, because it was like a witch hunt. They were all coming after him. So these guys are scared. They're not armed like the Roman soldiers, or they don't have armor. They're just normal dudes. I mean, for the most part, a bunch of fishermen who were just following Jesus Christ. And on the other side, on the flip side, we've got guards. In fact, it's been documented there's up to 16 at any given time over those 3 days. So keep in mind, the Romans did not want anyone to disturb this tomb. If it came about that Jesus rose from the dead and was not in that tomb, or he came alive, they're screwed. Like, they're over. So this is documented once again in the Bible multiple times, that it was ordered that they had 16 Roman guards, heavily armed, to guard this tomb, to guard the tomb of Jesus, where, once again, it's proven that he did die, that he get crucified, and is in this one specific tomb. So 16 Roman guards. Now, there's someone said, oh, they fell asleep and the disciples came in. Well, here's kind of how silly it is. And here's what that detective really refuted the whole thing and says, well, one, back then, the Roman penalty for sleeping on guard duty was execution. So yeah, there might be, these guys, 16 might work together and let, each other, like if there's 2 that wanted to sleep and the other 14 stay up the guard, they might do that, but they're not going to rat each other out. I mean, literally, they would be killing one of their best friends and their coworkers. This is a big deal. If you were caught sleeping on guard, the penalty was execution. That's not like a slap on the wrist. You literally get killed. So there is zero chance all 16 guards are going to fall asleep on the job and let 12 random dudes come up there and all of a sudden roll a 2-ton stone, right, without any of them waking up. I don't know about you, but if I came up to a 2-ton stone that's 4,000 pounds, that's going to make a lot of noise to move. It's going to be a lot of grunting to even push that thing. I don't even know 12 people could push a 2-ton stone. It's certainly without making any noise, and certainly without waking up 16 people if they somehow all 16 had fallen asleep at the exact same time. Right? It's pretty silly. And then let's take it a step further. If they somehow did find some way to put all these, knock them on the head with rocks, all 16 guards fell asleep, they would have had to have a story, a conspiracy story, right? These 12 men, the disciples would have had to have some type of story, and it probably would have been with men, because back then, women did not have the same rights and certainly did not have the same power that they do today. And if you know anything about the Bible and the whole story, the first witnesses of this resurrection were all women. Why would they have made that up? Back then, right? Back then, no one would even accept the testimony of female witnesses. Like literally, the Jewish courts did not even accept testimony of female witnesses. A female witness could not even testify. Her thing, it would literally have not even been part of the whole court case. Like that's how bad it was. So why in the world would like these conspirators make up a story and say, hey, you know what, we're going to say the first 4 people were women who came in and found it? That the whole thing just doesn't make any sense. That's the last story they ever would have made up. And this all kind of ties into what this detective found. Pretty interesting. The other part of it is these disciples, right? I mean, think if they had stolen the body. Think if this whole thing was a farce, right? They had the most to risk. And even afterwards, right? Even after the 3 days, and when he did rise from the dead, the resurrection happened, these 12 disciples got to see Jesus again, and then went out with like more fervor than ever before, right? They were, and someone could say, well, yeah, that's because, they didn't want to look like idiots. Well, at this point, they would have already looked like idiots, but let's just say they had stolen the body or somehow hidden the body or done something mischievous and had a conspiracy theory, and then went out to the world like harder than ever before saying yes, because this is how it happened, right? These 12 people are really the force that got Christianity started to say, yes, he literally rose from the dead. Now they're coming out there stronger and more believing than ever before, all the way to the point, if you don't know, this is interesting, 11 of the 12 disciples were murdered. 11 of the 12 disciples were killed, all the way to their death, declaring that Jesus rose from the dead. Now, I don't know about you, but if there was a group of 12 people and they were all living a lie, there would be at least one, if not half, that if it came down to a gun or a knife in front of their head or their heart, they would at the end say, man, just save me, I'll tell you the truth. There's always someone who's going to rat each other out. It happens even in the mafia. You don't even have to have 12. You can have 2, and there'll always be one who will rat out the other one to save their life. And yet all 11 of 12 disciples were killed and went to their grave. The very last phrases in some of their lives were talking about Jesus rose from the dead. They believe this because it truly did happen. There is just no way conceivable that 11 of these 12 people, and all 12 obviously did die, but there's no, and all 12 did go to the grave saying that Jesus, was the Son of God, that he did die and rose again, and the resurrection was true. But there's just absolutely no way possible that there's just too much evidence to not believe that guys would just literally be willing to die over a lie. It's impossible to get 12 people to do that. And that's also assuming that they once again rolled a 2-ton, a 4,000-pound stone in front of 16 guards without these guards, knowing about it. Once again, the Romans did not want this resurrection to happen. Like if it happened, now they're wrong. Now they look horrible, right? And this is right out of the Bible. I'll read it. The high priest and Pharisees arranged a meeting with Pilate. They said, "Sir, we just remembered that the liar, Jesus, announced while he was alive, after 3 days, I will be raised. We've got to get that tomb sealed until the third day. There's a good chance his disciples will come and steal the corpse and then go around saying he is risen from the dead. Then we'll be worse off than before, in the final deceit surpassing the first. So Pilate says, you will have guards. Go ahead and secure it the best you can. So they went out and secured the tomb, sealing the stone and posting the guards, which is the 16 guards. Because this, once again, this Christianity was a massive threat to both Jewish authority and to the Roman rule. Like everyone, minus these 12 people for the most part, and the other, people who would follow Jesus, they had a vested interest in making sure people did not believe that Jesus rose from the dead. The whole purpose of the crucifixion was to silence Jesus and to demoralize him and his followers. That's the whole reason it happened, right? They did not want to give this guy any more power. And they wished for a body. Once again, the Romans, the Pharisees, they wanted the body. Like if they had the body after the third day, then they're basically right. If they didn't, they're wrong. And how would basically 12 people create some kind of crazy conspiracy theory to do it? The other one that this investigator came up with in terms of what people say against it is that they went to the wrong tomb. That somehow they went to the wrong tomb. But once again, it goes back to the Romans. They wanted the body. The Romans were guarding the right tomb, right? And they had this massive stone in front of it. They rolled that's almost impossible. They went to the wrong tomb. And then the Romans would have quickly said, hey, you idiots, it's this one, and here's his body, right? But they never found the body. That's part of the whole group, this whole resurrection thing. So, and also too, it would be pretty quick to say, hey guys, I think we're at the wrong one. It's probably the one with the 16 guards and this massive stone over it. So that one kind of gets refuted pretty quickly. The other one that people bring up, did Jesus really die? That maybe he just never died, and somehow why they were wrapping up his body and stuff just kind of walked away. But then again, it's also kind of silly. If you've watched any of the movies or just read the Bible, you'll know that, he took, even before he had to walk his cross all the way up to the top and then get literally crucified, he received 39 lashes with this, it's called the cat o' nine tails, that had weighted pellets of lead at the end of the whip and ends that were embezzled with bone and metal to add weight, along with razor sharp hooks that they literally would hit this. And then when it hit your back, it actually dug in, and whatever flesh was on the hook was ripped out, literally like tearing the body apart. If you've ever watched Mel Gibson movie, oh my God, it's tough to watch. And he got 39 of these lashes, 39. By the way, 40 by Roman law is considered the death penalty. No one makes it past 40. He got 39. Then he was pierced in the head with multiple stakes, and then crucified and left up there to basically starve, and then pierced again. Like there's no way possible he did not die. And so what are we saying here? And what did this detective finally discover, this atheist detective? That yes, Jesus did rise from the dead. And that is crazy, right? Because that's something that doesn't happen. Dead people don't just rise, especially after 3 days, and especially after going through that. They don't just all of a sudden rise. And he didn't just rise and like come up and say, oh, I feel better, like they do in Monty Python. I'm not dead yet. No, he was literally 100% healed. In every account that the disciples saw him after the resurrection, after the third day, he was completely healed, right? He looked like he was a new rejuvenated Jesus. That just doesn't happen. That obviously is a miracle. That is obviously something only God can do. And here's the wildest part of the story. This is all a true story. This detective that I mentioned here in the very beginning, who started off as an atheist, is now a Christian, a devout Christian, J. Warner Wallace. And he is once again the guy who's probably done the most in-depth investigation of our time into this entire thing, and went in with a mindset that it was untrue and that he was going to have enough evidence to prove it right, and is now someone who goes to church and is a devout Christian. pretty wild. And it's also, if you think about this in terms of creating a religion, like think about that, right? If you're going to create a religion, are you going to make up something that says, yeah, you know what, we should base it on this one guy who's pretty cool and special, that he's going to get killed and rise from the dead? Like, that's so far out there. Like, that's not even conspiracy. Like, that's just cuckoo. It doesn't make any sense, right? No one would even try to bet their lives or a religion on that happening, right? And that's why it's so special. That's why it's so meaningful. That's why still today Christianity lives. That's why we still talk about Jesus Christ, because he did rise from the dead. And all the evidence points to that. There's no way it did not happen at this point, even to the point that an atheist who went on a 6-month investigation proved that it did happen and now became a Christian because of all the evidence that he found. But just think about that. And there's no other religion, there's no other worldview or philosophy anywhere that someone would even like contemplate or even suggest such a thing could ever take place. That's how big of a miracle it is. So I just figured that with Easter here and just a special time of year and really just an amazing story that I just happened to read. It's interesting how God puts the right messages right in front of our face at the right time. And I just wanted to share this with you. God is the ultimate power, and clearly there is no greater power than to be able to rise someone from the dead, to take your son and resurrect him on the third day, something that he completely called out. Really, really special. So if you have any questions or thoughts on this, I'd love to hear from you. It's joe@saltstrong.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And like always, hit me up, subscribe, and if I missed anything on this, let me know. I am certainly not a scholarly expert on this. I like to report on what I read and do my own investigations. And I thought this was just too cool, especially considering the time of the year. Love you guys. I hope you have an amazing Sunday or whatever day you happen to be listening to this. Spend some time with your family, spend some time in the Word, and do your own research yourself on this. And definitely get this book, Christianity for People Who Aren't Christians. Really, really fascinating, and I'm learning a lot. I went in thinking, oh, I'm just going to hear a couple of tidbits. It's really, really well done, and backs it up with evidence, which you got to love. All right, guys, talk to you in the next episode. Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. Find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today. For he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fish in our soul.